Hello and welcome. I'm Annette Reeder from the biblicalnutritionist.com. And today I'm answering a question about 6 things that you need to know before starting an SSRI. If you are dealing with anxiety and depression, this video is for you. And it's an important video because so many people are dealing with this issue and they don't know what to do. Should you get on a medication? Should you not get on a medication? What if I could teach you what to look for first and how to recognize whether you need the medication? So these 6 things are very important. And maybe you have a child or a grandchild and you're like, well, I wonder if they should be on medication or not. Then I really want you to pay attention to this video. Well, I have with me Dr. Jay Hitson, and you've seen her before on these videos because she's such a delight. She gives us incredible information, and it's information that we can actually put into practice. Well, she also does the blood panels that I have highly recommended since they started several months ago. And the results that people are getting by having someone that they can go to, that they trust to get results and actually meet with them and discuss the results. Okay, that just blows my mind because I've always wanted it. I've always wanted it for myself and for you. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. But most importantly, what are the 6 things that you need to know before going on an SSRI? All right. Well, Dr. J, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to talking about this today.
It's sad that it's such an important topic, but it's okay because, I was just teaching that as disease, we'll just use that word diseases, as they come up, it's not like they're the enemy. They actually are just an alarm clock. And the more we become aware of what we're doing and what's natural and what's not natural, what's healthy, what's not natural, the more we can start doing something about it. And that's where you come in because you have a lot to teach us today. We've been going over your notes, but you also have answers. And we're not going to leave anyone hanging today. We're going to give you all of the answers. So, okay, we have to get started. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, so talk with us and share with us the 6 things. What should someone look at before starting that SSRI or the the other medications that are out there for anxiety and depression? And there's actually quite a few. So, what should they know first?
There really are a lot of medications. And here's one thing that, just be educated as a consumer as to the effectiveness of the various medications that are being presented to you. Now, I was recently looking at a very, very interesting study, and they were actually really proud of the results that they were getting with this particular anti-anxiety medication that they were working through. And I'm reading the results. And essentially, to paraphrase a very, very long report, it said that they were getting with 50% of the people who are taking them. So only half of the people who were taking the medications got 50% better. Now, from my standpoint, that's not great odds. Now,
No,
and
not a
especially
bragging point.
right, that was not a bragging point from my standpoint. I wouldn't be bragging about that if that's was all the kind of results we were getting at with our patient base. I wouldn't be telling anybody that, but again, that's how these things work sometimes. So here's one of the things. So just being very aware as a consumer, you can find this information. Know what the protocol is going to be and how effective is it, and then being very aware of the potential for the side effects then, because just as much as you have potential for getting better, you have potential for those negative side effects. And some of these medications are very, very difficult to get off of once you're on them. I have seen in my clinical practice where people had massive, very severe reactions to when they were being brought off of their medications, for anxiety and depression. So just be completely aware as a consumer before you even get started. That would be point number one.
All right, so number one, just to recap, is understand the effectiveness. What can you expect for you? And are you going to be in that, 30 to 50% that actually get a result? So know the effectiveness and also know the side effects. So we're kind of grouping that into just one category, correct?
Absolutely. That's just one.
All right. So what's number two?
Number two is be very clear with how much you've given exercise a chance. I just so many times when I see people going and immediately jumping onto the medications or going that route when they haven't tried everything else first. The effectiveness of exercise for regular anxiety, how it can impact depression, it is phenomenal, way better than 50%. And especially we have to be looking at it. It is a daily practice. So we're talking about exercise, now we're not talking about killing yourself at the gym for an hour. We're talking about a 10 to 15-minute walk. But it's something that you need to be doing on an almost daily basis. You need to give your body that time to move. There's a beautiful word out there, right, called functional movement. Letting your blood flow, letting everything letting your limbs move. And even there's to some extent when you move your body, again, a good walk will accomplish this. Swimming is fantastic. I mean, there's really honestly, any sport that you have true enjoyment for, that's what we're talking about. By the way, I just want to mention this. So many times people are like, oh, I hate exercise. Well, is there something that involves moving that you enjoy? It doesn't have to be a true sport. It doesn't have to be, a quote unquote exercise. What do you find enjoyment in? And give exercise a very fair shot. And it's not like try it for 2 or 3 days. You need to give it like about 3 weeks for all the hormones to start working together. But after a few weeks, you will start to feel and notice, by the way, just another just a helpful point in this, it's helpful to also kind of journal this because it's hard to measure anxiety levels because when you're at home and you're going through and you're feeling these ways, sometimes you don't notice how much better you're doing until somebody points something out. So have your measuring sticks, and again, give exercise a solid try, at least 3 weeks.
Now, let me ask, your specialty is really being able to read blood work and
Yes.
to know exactly what's going on. Can you tell by blood work how well someone is exercising?
It is actually interesting. So there is a number, it's specifically called creatine kinase, and it actually tells you how your body is holding on to muscle mass. And so what's really interesting, when you're not exercising, you start wasting muscle mass, and we see it in that particular number. Furthermore, by the way, if you are exercising too much and you're actually putting stress and strain on your body, that number goes up, and it will show us that as well.
Now I'm ready to just pause this video and go grab all my lab work and just see where my creatine kinase is. It's like, I don't remember what my number is. I wasn't watching that one. And so I'll have to do that after we finish this. And so that's good to know. So you can tell by blood work if people are exercising effectively, which then is going to decrease anxiety levels, or if they're not being effective and maybe they could even try a different sport. Again, I'm all about blood work and doing it on a routine basis, maybe twice a year. So you're always improving your health so that you can be the best you ever. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we do need to keep on top, especially after about the age of 40. You really want to stay on top of your numbers and making sure that you're catching things while they're still small problems because it's so easy to reverse.
Those are key words that you just said because it's so easy to reverse.
Mhm.
And that's what people, that's what their takeaway is. You need to understand that your body is changing every moment of the day. And so when you start putting these 6 things into practice, things are going to change, which includes anxiety levels.
Absolutely. It makes a
All
huge
right.
difference.
All right. Number 3, what do you have for that?
Number three is going to be a bit of a surprise. and it's one that you may not hear very often when you listen to these lists: hydration. Dehydration has so many side effects. And I look at blood work, I look at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of labs. So I feel like I have a very, very sizable population just in a week's time. The number of times I have to tell a patient, you are dehydrated, I can't count. It's so often. It's actually exceedingly rare. I'm not saying that. And here's one of the things with dehydration, there are all kinds of symptoms. For instance, you can have you can feel like you're hungry all the time, and it's actually dehydration. You're not hungry. You can have headaches. You can have again, you can have like a lack of energy. And one of the other things is just that overall sense that something is wrong. Your body's giving this distress signal that something's wrong. And sometimes that dehydration, that something's wrong, feels like anxiety. So again, it's such a simple thing. And I love whenever, well, let's say this, so many people say it's so expensive to be healthy nowadays. And that's not exactly true. Go get a big glass of water. One of the next times that you're really having one of these episodes, which, by the way, there's a few things with the vasovagal as you're swallowing as well that help as well in that process, even from a neurological standpoint. We won't get into all of that today, but being well hydrated, you will be amazed at just how good you feel in your own body.
I so agree with that. Even when I have worked with people in their labs, and they'll have some numbers that are a little bit, I say, skewed because the doctor's ready with the prescription pad. And I say, how hydrated were you before you had that blood work? I mean, I understand you are to be fasting, but fasting is with water, because even a super dehydrated person can skew the cholesterol levels, can skew a lot of things. And then it's like, oh, well, you need some medications. Like, no, wait a minute, let me go back and do it again. This time I'm going to drink more water. And then their numbers are very normalized, and that wasn't an actual problem. Have you recognized that as well?
Oh, absolutely. Be dehydration skews so many things. Well, I mean, one of the things we can't even get a really good blood sample because of dehydration. There's a lot of labs that I get back and they're calling me because they couldn't even get enough blood. So, you're not going to get a good sample. You're not going to get good information from most physicians when you are dehydrated. It's because it's not part of the standard protocol to bring up.
I so agree with that. And that's why I love when people work with you, they get personal time with you. And when you're working, and I'm not putting any doctors down, but their time is limited. So they don't have time to say, hey, did you actually drink very much water before these labs were drawn? Because they really seem off. And there's a lot of things that are off. And so working with you is like, you get to say, how much water did you actually drink before these labs were drawn? Because a lot of numbers are off, and it may not be that you're that sick. It may just be you're dehydrated. And yet you're drawing the line to anxiety also with hydration, and hydration can help alleviate a certain level of anxiety, correct?
Absolutely. Here's the thing, before you go and just get yourself on a prescription, before you go and make those moves and expose yourself to not just the chemicals and the side effects and everything, let's try these simple things first.
Good
You'll
point.
be healthier for it.
Exactly. And you should do it anyway, even if you do take the medication. So
Exactly.
it's not an either or, it's an and. It's so choose. All right, what's the next one?
So this is one we do hear more often, but sleep. Sleep, and I want to compartmentalize because it's sleep, it's rest, and I mean like soulful rest. And even to the extent of recreation. I love the word recreation. Recreation is really the word recreation. So your body requires good sleep. One of my mentors said, well, you require as much sleep as your body has stress to overcome from the day. You require as much sleep as
Good point.
stress to overcome from that day. So if you have a lot of mental stress, you need more sleep. If you have a lot of physical stress, you need more sleep. So one is allowing for it. Let's just even make room for the sleep, because again, you are not recovering if you're not getting enough time. And I just run into so many people, and I work with a lot of women, but men too, who are just running themselves to the last minute, trying to trying to, go to, drop dead, on the pillow, and waking up too early. They're just trying to put too much into their day, and their body cannot recover. And part of the reason why they're having anxiety symptoms is because it can't keep up. So let's give the body its time. One, just give it the space for good sleep. And I do know a lot of people, and we could probably do a whole one of these just on sleep in itself. But a lot of people who are not staying down, again, they're on their electronics too much. They are not allowing their brain and their body to have some downtime before they're going into sleep. So there's just so many of these preventative things that you can be doing. And if you have not really made sleep a priority, so many of the people that we work with, okay, they may be making exercise a priority. Maybe they're making their diet finally a priority. Are you giving sleep that kind of attention? Are you giving it that kind of respect? Because we take it for granted that you should just be able to lay your head down, close your eyes, and let the and let it take care of itself. And that's just not necessarily true, especially as we age. And I know a lot of women, especially when they start getting into the menopausal years with hormones and whatnot, sleep can be more of an issue. You have to give it respect, and you have to give it space and allow it to do its job.
So true. So true. All right. And that leads us to my favorite. What's the next one?
Prayer. And even let me just say, it's so wonderful whenever I get to talk about things the way I want to talk about them. And prayer it's so important. There is a lot of research that is showing a link between anxiety and the sense of control, whether a loss of control, lack of control, trying to control. Let's just use the word control. And those who have healthy prayer lives they have an ability to to restore that balance of what that control is. And I'm just trying to use, from again, from the research perspective, but I think a lot of us, just from a personal experience, we know when our prayer lives are healthy, how centered we are, how you feel so much safer. You feel that groundedness. You feel that sense of, okay, God's got this. And we need those moments. We need that prayer time just to bring us back. So while I understand that this may not be one of my most, scientific points, it's just one that's so true and so real. And we get busy and we get away from it.
It's so true. I talk about this. Well, actually, Dr. Cooey, my co-author, and with the Treasures of Healthy Living Bible Study, there's a video series that goes with that. And he so demonstrates this. Dr. Cooey worked at Baylor University and he taught medical students. And so, with all of his ability with the microscope, he was able to see the cell membranes, the protein membrane actually open and close as a result of prayer. Well, we know when that opens and closes, you've got toxins going out, you've got nutrition coming in. That changes the cellular structure, that changes the health of the cell. Therefore, you're going to be less anxious just by what you take in and what you allow out. And it was all affected by prayer. He says the protein membrane opened the widest at the moment of prayer, even greater than laughter, which we didn't even have on our list for today, but would have been another one. But it was such an amazing, revelation that he shared with us on that DVD series. So totally in alignment with what you're saying.
And that's so beautiful. And we know it to be true because we can feel it. And
Yeah.
that's all we need.
Okay. Bring us to the last point.
The last point is one is overall health. So again, this is not necessarily something that a lot of people are very aware of, is how your body is always sending you signals. Your body is always trying to talk to you. One of the biggest differences between like there's allopathic medicine, which is what we most people know as, your medical doctors. And then you have holistic, which a lot of people think of, in the functional medicine categories and whatnot. One of the biggest differences between those two disciplines is that holistic is trained that the body is always trying to heal. The body is always trying to heal. So, what it's going to do is it's always going to send you signals. It's always going to be talking to you about what it needs to heal. So, what's really interesting, I run into when I'm doing lab work, you would be shocked how severe a problem malnourishment is in this country. It is an absolute epidemic. Very, very rarely am I looking at a lab work and somebody is not suffering from some version of a malnourishment, a malnutrition. They're starving to death. And again, people think, oh, how can I be starving to get death? I'm overweight. Well, fat cells and nutrients are not the same thing. You can have empty calories. So this radical, the body is asking for these nutrients that it's needing. And so what it's doing is it's sending signals. And what my experience has been, again, this is very interesting because 20 years ago, this wasn't exactly the case, because anxiety, because depression, because these have become almost buzzwords. Now the brain is almost latching onto these buzzwords. So when you feel these signals and you're feeling this distress because your body's asking for something, we're almost immediately labeling it anxiety, where it may or may not be a true anxiety. Sometimes it can be a nutritional deficiency. Sometimes it's just your body trying to talk to you, saying, hey, something really severe is going on. Would you please check that out? And that's one of the reasons why, from my personal opinion, I think that reason that the SSRIs and the medications and all of that, I think one of the reasons they have such a poor success rate is because they're not treating the right thing. They're not treating the root cause. The root cause is still there. And again, a lot of times with blood work, one, because insurance companies for annual physicals, it's a limited panel that they're allowed to run. And again, a lot of doctors, they just don't have the time to really dive in. So you have all these emerging conditions. You have these things that are not disease processes yet, but the body's still trying to talk to you. And again, it's coming across as anxiety when it could be, and again, not just a malnourishment. Sometimes I see it's it's like a pre-diabetes. Sometimes it's sometimes, yes, of course, sometimes it's like a vitamin D deficiencies. People, once they start getting that back up, we see them feeling better in their own skin. Again, I've seen where people have anxiety symptoms because their alkaline phosphatase is off. So there's so many things, and that's why we run a very comprehensive, every system of the body, not just the ones that your insurance company is pre-approved for your annual physical. A comprehensive evaluation of every single system so we know what's really going on, and is there the potential that what you're dealing with may not be true root cause anxiety. It could be something else.
That's an amazing takeaway. And because if you go into the doctor's office, and even when I was in my 30s, and I just didn't say certain words because I knew I could get a medication, but I worked in the ER, so I knew how easily medications were to get. But I had symptoms that were very similar to anxiety or depression, but yet it really wasn't the problem. And it wasn't until I healed the microbiome did I realize, oh, that was an optional side effect from a different problem. And so the medications would have never worked for me, or worked for me in a way that I would have wanted, because then I would have had side effects. And then you have the problem of getting off the medications. Once you realize, oh, oops, that wasn't what I had, but now I'm on them. And that's another serious matter. So I think, I mean, all six of these are very important, but this number six is where, okay, each one of these is about them, the person taking charge of their health. But number six is like, but I don't know what to do. Yet, if I get these blood panels done, I will then have that inside view and I will know, wait a minute, the anxiety is not true anxiety. It might be, homocysteine level, or it might be a B deficiency, or, there's so many other, or even the D deficiency. And then it almost brings that anxiety down. It's like, oh, good. I can so address vitamin D deficiency so quickly and so easily, and then feel better and be that, because so many young moms are put on antidepressants or anti-anxiety so quickly without the doctor even asking them what's going on in your life that may make you think this. It's just, here's your medication, here, go with this. I think your blood panels, I always say this in different ways, but I think your blood panels can save people, their family, because we aren't understanding what's the root cause, then we end up looking for answers that aren't the right answer because we're trying to go to Dr. Google, and it's hard. But having 30 minutes of your time, it's unbelievable what you can help someone discover about their health, and that's plus the blood work. So I just think this is a very important point that I really want people to take home. It doesn't matter if you're a 25-year-old young mom, or you're a 75-year-old grandma, or a 25-year-old man who's trying to, grow in his job and all of this, but he's having difficulty. It doesn't matter what age or what sex you are. We need to have that inside view of the blood work. We need to know what's going on. And to do it with you is just the best answer, because yes, you're going to pay out of pocket, but I would anyway. So I would anyway, just to have the true answer of what's going on. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I've been in practice for over 20 years. So you have, whenever you've been with people and you've worked with people through their lives, and when you've been working with patients for decades, you know how the storms weather, and and it's so much easier to see through to what's really going on with just that experience. And it's just been such a joy. This is something that I've been doing for a long time, and it's something I hope to do for the rest of my life, because I just really love not only just helping people understand what's going on with themselves physiologically, but just to get real answers for how they're feeling, and how they can feel their absolute best.
I so agree. So here we're going to wrap this up. You've given us 6 things that people need to look into before starting on an anti-anxiety or anti-depression medication. And if you choose to go that route, you still need to make these changes. And then therefore your doctor can lessen the dose. And so you'll be able to use less of the medication because you're doing these other things naturally. Or you can look at, well, can I even avoid it by making the changes and getting my blood work done? So I just want to encourage everyone. And I know we have a lot of international viewers. And at this point, these blood panels are not available outside the United States. So I wish they were, but at this point, they're not. But stay tuned to make sure you're on our email list, thebiblicalnutritionist.com, so we can let you know if and when it does become available, or if and when Dr. Hitson here is available to do consults outside the country, we can let you know. But get on our email list so we can let you know that. Also, if you have not had your blood work done in the last, I want to say 6 months, then you need to have it checked. I prefer getting mine done twice a year. I want to know what's going on before I get a surprise. So, and you could actually do it every day if you wanted to, but that's too much. But so if you haven't had it done, let's say at least in the last 12 months, you really need to have it done. And if you want to see how well you're doing with the changes that you're making, then you would have it done every 6 months. And then I used to have to take these into my doctor, and I would say, okay, here's my evaluation. Here's my conclusion. What do you think? And he would just say, oh, everything's normal. You're fine. And it's like, no, within normal limits is not the right answer. So working with you, Dr. Hitson, they get to know even more than within normal limits. They get to know, okay, this is interfering with this, and there's a better overall picture and a better takeaway of what they can do and what they're doing right, which everyone calls me and says, Annette, she told me what I'm doing right. That felt so good. It's good to get that report.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that's missing, is that, well, part of it's time, but you do need to know and be affirmed on the things that you're doing right so that you know to keep doing them. So many times we just, because again, you don't always feel the changes that you make, because this is going on a cellular level. So sometimes you're not necessarily getting that feedback that like the way you feel, but it's so beautiful when you see it in the lab work to know, okay, that exercise is working. Oh, okay, that food changes I made, it's working. That supplement I'm taking, that is worth it, and it's worth the investment.
That is so true. And that's important because people, their income is a little bit more limited. And to know, okay, that supplement's working for me. I'm making a good investment. I'm protecting myself down the road. And yeah, so this is an investment in your health, yet it's an investment to recognize what may be stirring that you can correct now before it becomes a very expensive disease. And so I just want to wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing with us. And again, I want people to use the links down below to get the exploratory blood panels. I cannot tell you enough times how important this is. So go ahead and grab those, that link down below, and everything is automated. You just pay one time, and then you get your requisition, you take it to the lab, and then the results are sent to Dr. J, and then they contact you to make an appointment to go over. It's so simple. In fact, we've had wives do it, and then the husband says, well, wait a minute, I want to do that too. And then we've had husbands do it, and the wife says, well, wait a minute, I want that. And then we've had relatives do it. It's like, oh, wow, is that simple? And she gave me that much information. And they're like, yeah. So it's like this family thing. And this friend, you tell one and they tell one. Everyone has been just coming back with, that was the best investment I've ever made. And I just want to say thank you for putting this together for us.
No, thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for letting us share with you this important topic, because we are now in 2024 and the rate and escalation of anxiety and depression, it's just going off the charts. I've been trying to look up what are the percentages, but they're not able to keep up with it. And because it's also, usually I have to wait 1 or 2 years before I get the actual percentages, but just know, my friends that work in the ER, they're like, Annette, we are filled with anxiety and depression. Just with what's going on in our world. But, we are not to have the spirit of fear. We are not to have the spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. And a sound mind physically comes from these 6 things that we've talked about. Spiritually, it comes from the prayer and the meditation on God's word and knowing him personally. So thanks for letting us share, Dr. Hitson and I share with you God's recipe for excellent health, and everything on this list is part of that recipe. And so enjoy this. Check the link down below for the exploratory blood panels. And until next time, remember, God loves you. Thanks for watching.
We all love food and feeling good, but are you feeling as good as you wish? Do you have the energy to be on mission? What if I could help you reclaim your health, both physically and spiritually? Join us February 8th through the 10th at the Biblical Wellness Conference. We're going to dive into what is holding you back physically and spiritually from the wellness that God promises in his word. My team and I are going to teach you how to do effective cooking classes in your home or even in the church. We're going to teach you how to do Bible studies focused on health. If you're ready to take on this challenge to begin a wellness ministry, a biblical wellness ministry in your church, your community, or even just your home, this conference is for you.